I'm a human, so.
Right at Lydell. How you doing? Yeah, check 1, 1, 2, 3, check 1. My name is Jason Konieczka, Konieczka. I'm a battalion chief and PIO for Tukwila Fire Department.
Will you be on for the rest of the evening?
Possibly. How late into the evening?
11 p.m.
Probably not. We'll see. You guys want to run something else at 11? We'll see. We'll get someone here.
Or if there's just any update or questions.
Sure. Okay.
So, could you start with just the
I'll just run down the spiel. Does that sound good? Okay. So at approximately just after 5 a.m. this morning, we responded to fire in the structure behind me. It's an apartment building, Maple Crest. It's a 4-story apartment. When crews first arrived, they encountered heavy fire, particularly from the backside of the structure. They quickly upgraded to a second alarm, soon after that to a third alarm. They tried to make access to the back of the structure, but unfortunately it's on a steep embankment. So the first crew actually had somebody slip down the hill. Fortunately, there was no injuries from that, but they were able to get up. Minimal access to the backside of the structure. Our police department did an excellent job notifying all the tenants at that time of day. As you can imagine, most people were in bed. Everybody from the building was able to get out safely, except for, unfortunately, we had one unit where we did have 3 fatalities. We had 2 adults and a child. When we got there, the smoke and fire was so intense in that unit that the crews were not able to even make entry. We attempted other parts of the structure to battle the fire, but with that unit fully involved, it was not safe for our people. Once we got the word that all the other people were out, we pulled out into what's considered a defensive fire, where we're safely spraying water from the outside. We also at that time determined with the hillside, the steep embankment behind the building, that the structure was possibly at risk because we were flowing so much water there. We had to have a building engineer and a geoengineer determine if indeed the hillside was safe for the building to remain stable enough. When we had a geoengineer determine the building was stable enough, we had crews go in and recover the victims. All families were notified prior to that, and at this time the only details we have are 2 adults and 1 child. We are still in a defensive mode. We feel that the embankment is safe enough now for the building itself. As below on Interurban Avenue, though, we have enough issues with the hillside that we are still closing Interurban for the night into tomorrow till Public Works can reassess that hillside. The building itself is structurally unstable, so unfortunately we'll have to remain in a defensive fire. It will probably burn throughout the night. We'll have at least 1 crew here the entire time of firefighters and officers that will be putting out hot spots throughout the night. They'll call if it indeed gets bigger, and our biggest priority is not only the building itself getting bigger, but the exposures, the building on the south side, and the bushes and trees on the north side of the building. So we'll be protecting those exposures.
Some of the neighbors are pretty concerned about the embers landing on their properties, their homes, and trees.
Yeah, so we're going to have our hose lines, and anytime we see a flare-up like that, we're going to be on top of it. So we shouldn't have any hot spots like that. It's been, as you guys have seen the footage, most of the day it's been burning. It's significantly died down right now, but with a 4-story structure, we're unable to make entry to even the first floor to put out any of the fires. So it's going to be a very long process where we just have patience and make sure we're safe, and we shouldn't see any fire spread beyond this building tonight with our crews on top of it. Absolutely, yeah. So a lot of older buildings in this region in general, not just Tukwila, when they were built before the fire codes, they were not required to have a sprinkler system. A sprinkler system is very expensive, especially to retrofit a building. It's in all new construction, it's required, so there's no issues now. One thing I would recommend is everybody make sure they have an operable smoke detector, change their batteries. We emphasize that. As far as we know, all these units did have smoke detectors. That's why most people were able to get out of the units, in addition to the police department knocking on the doors when they first got here. Yeah. So the sprinkler systems are it's not illegal. It's grandfathered in. If sometimes if a building changes ownership, they'll make them retro install a sprinkler system. But there's several buildings in this region in the Northwest and Greater Seattle metropolitan area that have been built well before the codes.
Are you hearing from tenants like we heard that the smoke alarms didn't trigger initially, and that the fire was really making its way through the structure, and only later they triggered?
I did not hear that. We have investigators that are interviewing each and every tenant that were in the building, and that will be part of the report and the investigation to thoroughly determine if all the smoke detectors and fire alarm system was activated properly. Sure. That's correct. We're working with the geo engineer to determine if the buildings near this building are safe to inhabit. The last thing we want to do is put somebody into a building that's not safe. We're going to be patient and make sure that we do our due diligence. The actual building itself, the reason we're not able to get in and fight the fire now is more the structural integrity of the building. The Landslide is secondary, although down below in interurban that's more of a threat down there than it is up here to this building.
So you're saying like the building could fall onto that street?
No, a couple different things here. We have the fire, which anytime we have a fire, and especially a multi-story building like this where the top floor is impacted, it's really unsafe to go in any floor because we could see a collapse of the building within itself. Now the hillside is a different issue right now. We're confident the geo engineer is gonna give us his best assessment of that hillside, but we are keeping interurban closed overnight until that can be done. After tomorrow, we flowed a lot of water here today, and they want to see what it looks like tomorrow morning. So we're not really concerned about that up here as much as down on interurban.
So it is a concern when you guys are
Correct. Up here for our fire, we're just concerned that we don't want this fire to spread beyond this building. That's why we're going to have a crew working here all night into the night and probably well into tomorrow. But as far as the hillside, we're not concerned about that impacting this building at this time. And as soon as we get the word for those other residents in the neighboring buildings, we'll let them go back into their homes. It's really up to the engineer. It could be any time now. It could be a few more hours. They need to do a very thorough examination of that because so much is at stake on it.
What early evidence do you have to say maybe where the fire started, or theories you're still on how it started?
Sure. So the investigation always takes a while because they're very thorough, and at this time, until we even get the fire out completely, they really can't even start. Our biggest priority was recovering the victims, of course. So we did that we took a calculated risk to get in there and get out. We did a lot of precautions because we knew that the family members would want that to get them out of there. But as far as the rest of the building right now, the building is most likely complete loss. So really there's nothing that's going to change the outcome of this, except for we want to make sure the safety of our crews are our highest priority, and with all the civilians out, that's really our only priority right now is the safety and like I mentioned before, the exposure, so we don't have any fires that's a result of this building. I've been with Tukwila for 23 years. I've seen unfortunately in my career here, it's hard to say how many I've seen. Fortunately, we don't get too many of these. I've been on a handful in my career. Well, yeah, and that's a great question. So if you think about the contents of your home and all the nooks and crannies and under the bed, and all it takes is a little fire underneath something that the water, when the water is raining down from above, it can only hit the fire that's not covered with something. So unfortunately, it's a waiting game almost. So if you look at the contents of this building with 32 units, there's a lot of stuff in there that can burn for a long time. I don't even know the answer to that right now. All right. You bet. Thanks, guys. That was the only one that I know. building problem. But I don't even, they might have given it. Yeah, no, I wasn't even sure. Yeah, it looks like we got the building going up. Oh, yeah, and have you been down below? I guess.
Oh, is that what you mean? Like,
I guess a bunch of